Good afternoon, everybody. Well done, Ronnie. Stephen Howson, Ronaldo Brown. Welcome back to XG Files. And Laurie Whitwell's dropped an absolute must-read article. We're going to summarise not all of it, because I think, go read it. I don't think it's under the subscription, actually. I think he's just let it out there for the public to see, I'm pretty sure. So, but if he's not, subscribe anyway, because it's actually well worth it. They've got some excellent United writers at The Athletic, but this article in particular looks like he spent a long time putting this one together.
Definitely. I don't know why you apologise for being in that. Do we ever apologise for anything that goes wrong at XG Files? I think it's part of the makeup. But nah, it is a very eye-opening article. I think there's a lot of stuff we did kind of know about-ish, but to get a little bit more detail on the ins and outs and a lot of the failings and issues kind of being amplified about like Murto and his lack of qualities and just the footballing department just being so part United for so long now, and the changes that INEOS want to make. I think it's almost one of those where it's probably been published in the light of something of an impending announcement in terms of INEOS and Jim Ratcliffe and what changes they're going to bring by showing how bad United actually have it in the places that INEOS want to change.
It's a great explainer for how some stuff's happened. Let's just get straight into the bullet points. So we've had a scan over the article and pulled out some of the more interesting parts for you. But like I said, the link for that will be down below. I definitely urge you to go check it out yourselves. But we'll pull out some of these, have a chat about them, and obviously let us know your thoughts in the comments below. So first things first, Erik Ten Hag's involvement in recruitment. Before joining United, Ten Hag spent time planning what he thought he wanted as the squad's composition, and he wanted a specific player type, including people like Frenkie de Jong. I think that was quite obvious, right?
Yeah, it was quite obvious with us wanting de Jong, and I'll address the elephant in the room. Alexis Bailey's asked, Ronnie, you've been fighting or something? Right, so I had a bit of an allergic reaction in my eyes yesterday, where both of them ballooned up. This is actually quite low for what it looked like. So, yeah, it's either that or I have been in a fight, but you should see what the other guy looks like. But anyway, with de Jong, people kind of mocked almost Ten Hag's fascination with him, saying that he was chasing him for so long. Obviously, you saw some of the saga with Jadon Sancho.
I know publicly that de Jong was saying, I'm happy at Barcelona, but what player is going to... He was owed 17 million by Barcelona. Yeah. Like, what player's like, get me out of this fucking shithole? He's not going to say that.
He's not going to say that, but also...
Publicly, at least.
Public, but I do get the feeling that Barcelona was his dream club. He was happy there, his family... his wife was very much in his ear.
That saying, I get, but I don't think Ten Hag pursues him so publicly if he's not privately been giving him the nod. Yeah,
exactly. And I think we've seen now de Jong's probably borderline top 4, top 5 midfielders in the world.
At doing what he does.
At doing what he does, I think he might actually be one of one. In terms of his profile.
Well, it's very obvious why Ten Hag wanted that sort of play, especially when you watch United now. When you look at our starved forward line now,
do you not think so?
You close your eyes and go, yeah, de Jong.
But he does everything. But a lot of the things that we've kind of, de Jong almost excels at all the things that our midfielders don't do very well. Do you know what I mean? In terms of carrying the ball, being press resistant. Being dynamic. He's also decent off the ball, actually, de Jong. He's even played games at centre-half, so he's got a very all-round game, and he's someone that, if he goes to one of our rivals, it's a problem, because I don't think there's many players out there like de Jong, and there's a reason why. I know people are talking about, people almost call it nepotism with the way that Ten Hag loved these Eredivisie players, but I think de Jong would have been the one player that we would have rather spent the money on, in terms of players like Anthony and people that he's brought in. I think de Jong would have...
The problem is, Anthony's not been a success. Nah. If he would have been a success, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where they came from if they're a success. The problem is he's not been a success.
Nah, he's not at all. And I knew someone was going to say that, because we saw de Jong play against us twice in the Europa League. I thought in the first game, he didn't play very well at all. And in the second game, he did play well. But... Daniel Berry, you can't watch de Jong and be like one game and then make a sweeping statement like he's overrated. He's not. He's top quality and he's exactly what we would have needed. But I knew some United fans would have seen him play against us, not play like well, and be like, he's shite. Do you know what I mean? But very reactionary, but he's not. But I don't know. I think there's got to be, even though it seems good that he wanted to be involved in recruitment, isn't part of the criticism saying that they've almost been in too much, like in terms of Ten Hag's been in too much control of the players that we've signed in the past 10, 15 years. And that creates a problem for when you want to offload players in the future if there's a managerial change, because...
Yes, because it was all one manager's thing. Yeah. Ultimately, like, so that's one of the tenets of Soccernomics, is like, every manager is greedy. You as a football club have to insulate the football club, and there's a reason why you try and buy players and appoint coaches that are aligned. Because if you go from a Graham Potter to a De Zerbi, he can work with what's there, because it's in, like, if you go from, if you went from De Zerbi to Sean Dyche, he's getting rid of 90% of the players, right? And he might be able to find a way to win, but you have to decide first and foremost, and it's a lack of a plan. Like, the next point is lack of an established plan. United lacked a shadow squad of potential signings. We only had first choices, and then after that there was nothing. Like, but it's not just about individual signings. It's about, what is the plan? What are we trying to be? Are we trying to be a counter-attacking side? Are we trying to be a possession-based side? What do you want to be? And are you filtering that through the youth system so you can identify correct talent for the first team? Or are you just trying to create youth team players that maybe have got a value with them so that you can supplement your signings? Like, what is the plan? Like, if you want to create players for the first team, okay, well then they have to play in a manner that's going to mimic the first team, and you have to implement that all the way down the squads. Like, the lack of a plan, and then, you know, there's John Murtaugh's role, and the whole John Murtaugh thing is mayhem. The whole John Murtaugh, like the way he got the job, mayhem.
But do you expect anything less? Do you know what I mean? Because with Glazers, we all talked about their incompetence and how, like, poor they've been.
Well, I think Glazers are hands-off owners.
But that's what I was going to say. In a way,
that they give the keys to was Woodward, and look, and I've said it very bluntly in the past, what my feelings are on Ed Woodward.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I've said it extremely bluntly in the past, but, you know, I do think he was a horrendous appointment for Manchester United in terms of where the club has gone under his steerage. It focused on commercial revenue, but it was short-sighted, in my opinion, because if you want to focus on commercial revenue, go win some shit. Manchester City just shown you they've got a fucking bang average size fan base, yet just coined it in because they won more football matches than anyone else last year.
But that's exactly what he was talking about, because when you think of Glazers, it's weird, you can blame him, but you can't blame him. But it's weird because they're not like the complete opposite of like a Todd Bowley, where Glazers almost do nothing in terms of, they're very like, they just delegate everything and they're extremely hands off.
Yeah.
So they have little to no input in terms of the way the club's been operating at a footballing level. But they've enabled it.
It's not their mistakes that you can pin on them directly, but ultimately it's their responsibility because they're the people that are in charge. They own the football club. So if under your ownership it's all fell to rat shit, you are to blame at some point, even if the day-to-day decisions that made it rat shit weren't your decisions.
Yeah.
No, they were somebody else's decisions.
And I sent you that video, didn't I, on after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game where all the Glazers are
where they're literally going shaking hands with people.
Shaking hands.
When they won the Super Bowl, they were on the pitch. Could you imagine United win the Champions League and fucking Ratface and friends try and get on the fucking pitch?
But they just won a random regular season game against a team that's not even that great, and the Glazers are in the tunnel shaking all the hands of the players as they come off. But people have said the reason is they're owners of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Apparently they're only investors at Manchester United, is what people said. But I just read... but anyway,
so it speaks on signing constraints. Some of the signings under Ten Hag, obviously Christian Eriksen and Malacia. You know, no one was getting the checkbook out in a big way. And then it talks about how, you know, we did switch strategy to going for Casemiro, and much to like no one's surprise, Casemiro was a bit of a panic buy.
Yeah.
In multiple ways, and it went against the structure. I think one of the things that's very important, which I will go into detail here. So Sir Alex Ferguson's involvement in Bellingham and John Murtaugh's role within this. So Sir Alex Ferguson's involvement in what happened. So obviously, the article describes an incident in which Jude Bellingham a kid no one really knows a hell of a lot about, just some teenage kid that's doing a bit of a madness at Birmingham City. He comes to Carrington for a visit, and United roll out Fergie. On the surface of things, nice. That's an A-star move. You get Fergie to come and meet the boy, and I think his dad, who is his agent, apparently his dad was a bit of a bagsman, non-league as well. But anyway, so United bring in Fergie to try and assist in persuading him to join the club, and that was apparently a part of the broader strategy to showcase United's commitment to Bellingham and his role within the team. During the visit to Carrington, the club had a very extensive, which I'm shocked at, analytical presentation that highlights his prospects for breaking into the first team, and that was apparently a big part of their pitch to Bellingham. John Murtagh reportedly had a bit of a different view on how to conduct the visit, and sources are suggesting that he guided Bellingham and his parents away for a tour of the facilities, which led to Sir Alex Ferguson feeling a little bit slighted. And Ferguson reportedly was incensed at what he perceived was an interruption or an oversight of his involvement in the meeting. Now, Sir Alex Ferguson should have been able to do whatever the fuck he wanted, including go and conduct the meeting in McDonald's if he saw fit. Because you've got to think, the one thing I think is undeniable with Fergie is his emotional intelligence. Like, he knew how to treat Cantona, he knew how to treat Giggs, he knew how to treat the situation with Ronaldo's father passing away. He knew how to treat people. And yes, there was some incidences where things fell out.
Joaquin.
But I think that his emotional intelligence and his emotional sensitivity, I think he always see, like, what does people talk about when they talk about Fergie? He was a father figure. He put his arm around me. He made me feel welcome. He made United like a family. All of these sort of keywords and buzzwords, there's no coincidences there. I think Sir Alex Ferguson, how many times has he been on recruiting visits, do you reckon? Hundreds over 40 years as a coach and a manager at Manchester United, whether that's for youth team players. You see him being rolled out when David Beckham was signing papers at 14 years of age. You know what I mean? Like, this is a guy that'll get the job done. Or John Murtagh.
Yeah, but...
Absolutely mental, actually.
Nah, because obviously we've been linked to Dan Ashworth, which obviously would be a huge upgrade. He's only been at Newcastle for not very long at all. But I think with the disrespect that Murtagh showed to Sir Alex Ferguson, can't really believe that. In terms of not necessarily not believing it, but can't believe
not believing the article. The audacity.
Not believing the audacity he had to actually do that. In a certain way, Fergie's obviously still around the club as he should be.
Football, wheel him out for that stuff. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Let him enjoy the games.
Make him know, because on the footballing side and stuff, I don't know how much he should be involved, because obviously the game does move on. The game has moved on in a certain way.
But also let him enjoy his retirement.
Do you know what I mean? I let him enjoy his... Because I think there's a lot of... Sir Alex this asking for, like, whether he agrees with certain things. You can do, but I think the man... Just let him chill out a little bit, kind of lessen his responsibility. Well, I think there's a little bit of a thing where any time that United are making type of these movements up, they're asking, what does Fergie think about it, and does he agree? I get that to an extent, but in some ways I think we need to be more progressive, because I think even Fergie's not asked if you ask him or not, to be honest, at this point. Do you get me? Just let him chill out. Enjoy the retirement a little bit.
I mean, things are a little bit different now. Yeah. Obviously, he's just about to head into his first Christmas without his wife. That's,
exactly.
That's an entirely different sort of set of circumstances. The Bellingham thing was a few years ago, but I think you're seeing him going out for dinner with Erik ten Hag. It was several months ago, wasn't it? I'm not sure when exactly it was, but I imagine from a social point of view, he was happy to do that. It wasn't something that was publicised. Someone got a bit of a candid photo of them, and they were eating at like 10 p.m. at night in a quiet restaurant. They might have even shut that shit down just to go and have a quiet meal on their own, because there's nobody else in the photo, if I remember rightly. It's just them two sitting on a table, isn't it? So I think he loves Manchester United to his core. So I think he's willing to do whatever. So I think if you keep it hands off, don't keep mithering him all the time, because like I said, he's earned his retirement. Let him go watch the horse racing. Let him go do what he needs to do. But then every now and then, I think he'd love to still feel wanted, like by the club. And if the club go, Sir Alex, we've got Jude Bellingham, and I bet as soon as they said we've got Jude Bellingham coming, I bet he went, what a player. I bet he knew about him. I bet there's no way Fergie went, who's that? I bet he went, Oh, I've heard about this boy.
Young 16-year-old Rashford.
I think I went, oh, he's a player, he is. Yeah. What time do you want me there? And I think he'd have loved to be. And like I said, it's the perfect person to roll out. Let him be the ambassador and the face of the club. And even from a bit of a psychological point of view, if you're wondering, I wonder what's going on with Manchester United at the moment. And obviously that was under Solskjaer, right? But if let's say there's another Bellingham appears on the horizon somewhere, and you have Sir Alex Ferguson meets you, tells you about the history of the club, tells you, I can see a player, and you go, he can fucking see a player. And he goes, you're a fucking player, and we'll make you a player at this club. You're already like, give me the pen, right? And then you meet Erik ten Hag, Fergie passes you off to Erik ten Hag and goes, this is the man that's going to sort your future out.
But this is what's changed at Manchester United, because I think 15, 20 years ago, when United, probably even going further back, when United were dominating and were seen as the go-to club to go in the Premier League, all the best young players, whether it be in the Championship or lower down in the Premier League, especially English ones, they will all but surely have gone to Manchester United. I think people say it like 10, 15 years ago in the Fergie days, if there was a Bellingham, he would definitely ended up at United.
It's not always the case, because Bale didn't.
Harry Kane would have ended up at United, or players that we've let slip through the net, or players that have almost kind of like thought elsewhere is better in terms of for their career prospects in Manchester United. I don't reckon it would have happened that long ago, which makes me think United almost have got to be a little bit cleverer, which they haven't been in the last 10 years in terms of their transfer policy, in terms of their recruitment. They're going to have to find a little bit more of unknown gems and be better at developing players, because we're not going to be able to sign like a Roy Keane from Forest, or like was it Rio from Leeds? We're not going to. I don't think United are going to be able to do that anymore because of the competition with the clubs.
Yeah, you're right, and there is competition with clubs, and unfortunately, because the Premier League is such a rich league,
everyone's got
if you want a Caicedo from a Brighton, it's £100 million.
I was saying this because we got beat nearly 3-0 by Bournemouth, right? Bournemouth haven't been paying chicken change in the last two transfer windows, They've been slapping out 40 mil bids, for players.
This
Bournemouth.
Is true,
this is what
they are also stacked by, like, I know Joe Rothwell is a former United academy graduate. He I think went to Bournemouth on a free, now playing in the Premier League. You know what I mean? There's some weird amount of quality in there. I think he mimight be the same year as McTominay, actually.
Yeah.
Couldn't be different in terms of a footballer either.
I feel like, because it's even like Solanke who's doing well. He was like
he was highly rated.
Yeah, highly rated, but he didn't make it through Chelsea. He had like a bit of not a great stint at Liverpool, and he's ended up at Bournemouth, and he's playing well again. He might end up at Arsenal in the January transfer window. So it does happen. You got obviously Ivan Toney. Ivan Toney played for Newcastle, didn't he, when he was in his younger ages? Didn't make it there.
You've got to think the most important thing, as always, and this never changes, is between 18 and 21, you need to go and play men's football somewhere. Honestly, I don't even think it matters what level. I just think it matters that you're playing men's football as fast as possible and as often as possible, and it will develop you. I think if you sit around fucking about in the 21s, 23s, so you're 20, you might as well just start looking at like what League Two club you're going to at best. And even that, some people like have got this thing in them where they're too proud to go play that. Like, there's been countless examples, and it seems to be a more common thing now, where people are dipping into even the topper end. Obviously not our level of non-league, but like the top end of non-league is still making international footballers. If you go to National League South, Northern Prem, as a teenager, if you're playing regular, starting in that level, you could still be an England international, factually.
100%. I've just seen then, Stanley said, because this moves on to what we can actually talk about in here as well, confirms that Sandro Martinez, Casemiro and Mason Mount won't be back until mid-January. Mason Mount's a player that's been spoken about. Obviously, that's not great anyway, but Mason Mount's a player that's hardly featured for United this season, it feels like, and he's not been great when he has played. What's your kind of take on that transfer? Because it was 55 million from a rival club. He had a year left on his contract. He seems to not really have a position where he fits in yet. He's not kind of like excelled yet at all. we've got needs in other areas, and it kind of feels like probably even stronger needs than a number 10, which Mason Mount can be seen as being the type of player that he plays. Could that 55 million have been used elsewhere for another centre-half, or maybe a backup right-back, or even another striker that could have kind of took the pressure off Højlund? I know it's revisionism, but the Mason Mount deal could be one that we look back on it as, did it set us back like a window or two?
Well, it's a significant amount of money. It's it's a Premier League international.
Yeah.
You're talking like the likes of Caicedo, your Declan Rice's. They've gone for 100 million from Premier League teams to Premier League teams, and I didn't quite finish my point earlier on. Yeah, United. We used to pay big though, but I think in the grand scheme of things, 100 million feels too much, doesn't it, for these sort of signings? Like when we had the likes of Rio, Rooney, Carrick, Roy Keane as an example. We brought a British transfer record for Roy Keane. We paid quite hefty for Andy Cole. We've always had a lot of success of talent that's been proven in the league, done well, bring it to Manchester United, polish it up, make it even better. Like we've had a real success doing that. And I guess we tried to do that recently. I think Maguire was an attempt at that. I would argue it didn't work. Wan-Bissaka was probably another attempt at doing that. I would argue it didn't work.
I think Dan James qualifies as out from a lower scale.
No, I think that was more of a gamble. But Mason Mount didn't feel like that because he was kind of like he was clearly surplus to requirements at Chelsea because they bought 100,000 fucking players.
Yeah. Nah, I think I just look at the Mason Mount one, and I've always thought he was a decent player, but when I look at the money spent with a year left in his contract, I think now you're looking at it, it could have been distributed better to positions that were probably more of a need, because he's come in to be an 8, and then it's like almost, is he an 8, is he not? And then you've got Amrabat in on loan, and then you've got Eriksen there, and you've got...
I think if you'd have had a more stable pair of six...
Got Mainu coming through. I don't know, it's just typical shit transfer business and kind of policy that's been kind of plaguing United for a while, and it's annoying because even if it feels like United do make progress in the season, we have a window and it kind of takes us 2 steps back, and there's been a lot of that, and it's made us
or even
quite
not
stagnant.
even necessarily have a window that takes you 2 steps back. You have a window, you address the main concern of we haven't got a striker. You're all right, we've got a striker. All right, he's injured though. Okay. Oh, but by the way, both of our centre halves are now injured. Okay, and all our midfield's injured, and you're like, fucking hell.
But look, but we've had
got
this,
a new goalkeeper though.
But how long have we had the need now? Can you tell me in the comments? How long have we had the need of a right winger? So we've had a right wing need for however long, and probably since Valencia. Do you reckon? Whenever we had like a strong, stable right winger at the club.
Well, I think you can argue that almost every position at the club you can improve.
But then we've forked out, how much money have we forked out on 2 right wingers in the past 3 years? Sancho and Antony, and now right wings all of a sudden a need again, still, because they too didn't make the grade.
It's ridiculous.
It's unbelievable.
It's,
do you know what I mean?
It's basically 200 million.
Yes.
And you had an academy product that was playing there as well. And you've got nigh on £300 million worth of talent that plays right wing that don't do a job for whatever reason. And all of them have got different reasons. But you've got £300 million worth of talent, more or less, on the right wing that we can't play. Actually, it's probably more because Palestri and Ahmad are also. So you've got genuinely, comfortably £300 million worth of right wingers, and we can't get a tune out of anyone at right wing.
It's actually it's annoying because even look at Newcastle and they're getting a tune out of someone like Almiron, who starts right wing, playing well, works hard, he's getting goals and assists now. And you don't even get that type of kind of, that almost rejuvenation of a career where it seems like, I feel like we sometimes wait for that with players at United. I thought they've done it for Martial for ages. They've probably done it for
I think look at his record in playing. Just fucking cut your losses. Do you think guys are about quarter of a week as well?
Do you think it's because of the amount of money that we spend on the transfers that when they don't work out, rather than cutting ties, we kind of hope that they turn it around. They hope that they turn it around.
Yeah, but this is where United can't act like Real Madrid and should. Eden Hazard didn't work. How long's he been there? 2 seasons? Gone.
Yeah.
Retired. Out the fucking door. Eden Hazard would be here at 45 years of age if he came to United. Like other clubs have flop transfers. Look how many Barcelona roll through with Coutinho and Dembele, although Dembele he started to actually play football, which has, made him less of an egregious transfer. But wasn't he on like 130 million? Coutinho 180 million.
Yeah, but Dembele was straight for the most part, and then I think for the last season he's been pretty good.
But the other teams, Chelsea, they had a £300 million midfield against United. It didn't look like they had a £30 million midfield.
No, it didn't. And it looks like their team, they've spent like $1 billion or something in the last couple transfer windows, and you wouldn't even think it. I think even though a lot of their players have done that weird young protege kind of hoarding where they bought like all the best. They went on to like Football Manager and so
Top 20 Wonder Kids go.
Top 5 Wonder Kids, and they've just bought them all, hoping that one of them pays off. I think one of them's paid off in a big way. I think Kendrick Paez, Ecuadorian, and then when it doesn't work out for them, they just kind of just brush it off the books, don't they? I think what Chelsea are is they're good at selling though when players don't work, whether they're young or.
Well, they got that real established loan with Vitesse, haven't they? And I think they got another loan deal somewhere else.
Strasbourg.
No, the one in England that they fuck them off to as well. But either way, they've got like a pretty established system of getting players out on loan, and they get them out early because they know they're good. They're a team that always competes for the under-21 Premier League title, always competes for the Youth Cup.
Yeah.
Them and City basically shared it for the last 10 years, haven't they? So like they are a team that's always performing. So there's always interest in those players. So they've obviously got a good relationship where they can. Here's the other thing as well. United have sent players out on loan, it ain't worked. Because United haven't got this established relationship. If you, let's say you're Salford, for example, and it's weird that they wouldn't use Salford, but I think there's a little bit of a distrust probably from United's board looking at the class of 92 and everything they achieved at United. They probably don't want to help them. But let's just say Salford because of geographic ease. If you said, right, you're in charge at Salford and I'm the loan manager at United, which I don't even know if it's that position that we have. Like, you speak to Lescott. Lescott used to be the loan manager with some of your mates, actually. Yeah, Isaac, didn't he? Like, Lescott had that job at Manchester City where he would go and be responsible for what the lads were doing on loan. If they had any welfare problems, they'd speak to him and he would obviously help liaise with the club that we were at. But when you've got a good relationship like that, I can say to you, right, I'm going to give you this kid. I'm going to give you Shea Lacey, right? He's a little kid. He's going to need a little bit of building up. Shea Lacey's not going to be starting games for you, but I reckon 20, 25 minutes. Can I get him 25 minutes a week with you? And you go, yeah. After 2 weeks, when you haven't been bringing him on, I go, Ronnie, I thought we had a relationship here. He needs 25 minutes a week. I'm going to pull him out if you're not going to give him 25 minutes a week, and I'll send him somewhere that he's gonna. Or, there's a little bit of a power play there, like, I'll give you more because there's talent I can give you, and it helps you out.
Nah, but the issue is there's no these clubs don't have a divine right to play the players that these big clubs have loaned to them, because I've spoken about it where League One managers, Championship managers, they don't have the type of job stability that a lot of Premier League and top club managers have.
That's true.
A lot of these managers are actually week to week, because at that level you play 2 games a week almost all season anyway. It's like 46 league games and cup games as well. And a lot of them, they 1, 2, 3 losses on the bounce and under pressure already. And if they've got like a young 19-year-old that isn't really there for them, and he's on loan from a Premier League club, he probably has a little bit of a smugness that they don't have down there. Because I've seen both sides. If he plays him, he doesn't play well. He doesn't think he's going to add to his results when it's his job and his livelihood on the line.
Yeah, he's going to chop him.
He's not going to play him. Yeah. That is why a lot of players from that level, like Premier League, and they play for like the under-23s, they go on loan to the Championship of League One. The environment's different, the ambience is different, the expectation's different, the game's a lot more physical, and then they're not getting played because they're not kind of performing the way they should be performing to help the team. And everyone's like, oh, why? Then the club's like, why are you not playing him? Why this and that? But it's not. I think it's almost down to the player then to either be at the level or to not, basically. For example, you got some players that don't go on loan. For example, Mainu and Garnacho are playing for United, and they've not done any loan moves. Obviously, Greenwood never went on loan. Rashford never went on loan. Did McTominay go on loan anywhere?
Nope.
Some players don't need it, and the thing is, that's why football's funny, because any of those players might have gone on loan and not done well, and the career might have turned out different.
Yeah, they could have gone well. There's loads of players that maybe don't quite shine enough at 18s or 21s to the level that they want them to, and they might drop down to your National League, League Two, and then come right back up again. I mean, there's so many examples of that. There's something I was going to say there in terms of... Oh, yeah, so there was a United player that I know that United loaned to the Championship about 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
He played 1 week. He did okay. I watched the game. He did okay. Played the next week. Did better. Probably a good solid 7 out of 10, which is not bad. You know, Championship's fucking... If you can swim in the Championship, I think there's a player there, especially as a teenager.
Definitely.
I think he was 18. I don't think he was a very young one. I think he was 18 on his way to 19. That was a couple of games. He individually did okay, and the manager got sacked. They bring a new manager in. There was an agreement of 75 minutes a week.
Yeah.
So 75 minutes a week isn't every game. That could be...
across 2 games.
Yeah, that could be a 40 and a 35 if you're playing twice in a week. Or it could be start one play and that's you're not playing in the second one. Whatever it is, but there was an agreement in place that he would get... And I guess it averages out across the year. So over, 35 weeks, they want 75-minute average. You can make that happen, can't you? So you can play him for 3 weeks, give him a 90, and then he doesn't play in that game or that week. Whatever, anyway. But the new guy came in, and the new guy went, I didn't loan you. Iced him. And then for him to be brought back, there was a fee. Like if United wanted to bring him back in the January transfer window, there was a fee. And these penny-pinching bastards went, just leave him there.
That I'm not gonna lie to you. They don't. Their player. That's not their player, and United. United are doing is not their concern.
No, United. It's like.
Oh, if United have had to pay.
So basically, United were told. So he's played 2 games. This is fucking August, right?
Yeah.
He's played 2 games. The new guy comes in and goes, you ain't my signing, and I ain't going to play you. I think he played a different formation, and his particular position was now not needed. He goes, I ain't going to play you. And then he stayed the entire season.
Barely playing.
And he did not play again after the first 2 games. That new manager did not play him once. And he asked to come back at Christmas because he said, this guy's not going to play me. But in the contract that they'd made with the Championship club, if United wanted to bring him back early...
They'd have to pay.
They had to pay. And it was like... 200 grand.
Like a recall fee.
Yeah. It was nothing in the grand scheme of things, but United chose not to do it.
That's United, and that's typically how poor we've been. With youth, United's obviously often had a
Someone's got it in the comments. Who it was? I don't want to say who it was. You see it?
I can't. Yeah. I should have known it was that. I should have known it was him anyway. Should we talk about Ratcliffe and INEOS and the eventual involvement? Obviously, there's rumours that it could be actually announced today as well, but that's been said for quite a few times now.
I think we're up to double figures.
But it kind of makes sense though. You're not expecting a big ass deal like this with the money involved and the transactions involved for it to be done overnight.
Well, the fact that it's so complicated, it's like there's a percentage of the public shares are included in this deal. So it's in it like half of the shares come from the Glazers, half come from that part that was in public. How did they decide whose shares get bought?
I have no idea.
I mean, it must be complex. They must have to write to every shareholder and say, "Do you want to sell?"
Because even though it's been delayed, people are saying that it's been a thing where everyone's been working almost 24 hours around the clock though on this. Like this deal's been everyone's working on it constantly, and it's still taking this long.
It's easier to buy all the shares than a percentage of the shares.
Because you're distributing it to different people and everyone's got to agree.
I can imagine it's absolute fucking carnage.
But this is what it said in the article. Ratcliffe and INEOS involvement. Surge in Ratcliffe's impending investment in United prompted an audit of the club's processes by INEOS Director of Sport, and that's Sir Dave Brailsford, someone that we've actually Steve did a video on, talking about who he is if you want to check that out, and obviously his philosophy on his marginal gains, which I found quite interesting, because we talk about this high level and how little percentages matter.
Marginal gains.
Marginal gains, and he's definitely aware of that. And obviously we spoke about this, the issues in the transfer strategy, club management. Obviously the article did highlight issues with United's transfer strategy, overpaying for players, the slow decision making, and a lack of a consistent recruitment concept. And obviously with INEOS coming in, it seems like they are just taking control of the football inside. We've spoken in depth about how poor United have been in the football inside. It can only be a positive, because I know people were quite sceptical, and I think we were right to be quite sceptical about how it's going to look like with the Glazers still having some ownership of United, because I know we wanted them out completely, and whether Jim Ratcliffe was going to be able to make enough difference. But it seems as though sorting out the football side has been the major issue.
Here's the thing, right? People are going to go, well, if he's had to borrow, which I believe he has, I don't think he had this in cash. And I know people go, in business, you borrow because it's tax efficient. And look, that's not the issue. That's not the issue or the point that I'm making. So the funding isn't. People are going, he's not going to be able to put in loads of cash, which is what people just automatically assume any owner needs to be able to do, is put loads of cash in. And United are hamstrung by the fact that we owe nearly $1 billion in our debt. So the repayments on that, even just on the interest alone, and interest rates are rising. So that's got to be a bit of an arse twitcher for the Glazers and Jim Ratcliffe. They're not going to put any of that 1.6 billion he's given them into the club. That's just going into the fucking, the Glazer fucking Saturday night fucking party fund. That's not going anywhere near the club. So people are going to go, okay, well, where's all this money going to come from for signings, for this, that, and the other? And I know Jim's supposedly, because he's not done anything publicly, there's rumours of him earmarking certain funds to do certain things with it and this, that, and the other. But actually just operating the football side properly stops the £300 million right wing wastage, stops the £80 million for Harry Maguire, stops the panic buys on the likes of Casemiro and stuff like that. Even though I thought he was worth the transfer fee for last season, you ain't going to recoup a fucking bean of that if he goes. Like, if you'd have think how many times we've bought and bought and bought and bought for the same position and not actually fixed the problem. Look how many strikers we've rolled through. And some of them was like Lukaku, 75 million.
We've had a lot of short-term fixes though, in the likes of Cavani, obviously Ronaldo back. We had Falcao. It's actually crazy, some of the number 9s that have been at this club. Some of them have been huge names in football.
Do you know how, do you know, I didn't know you then. You have no idea how excited I was when we signed Falcao.
And he came on and he came to United and he played like he had half a knee. He was literally dusted. It was unbelievable. Falcao at the time, literally about a year before we signed him, I think we signed him post-injury. He was probably arguably the best striker in the world. He was almost unplayable. And we signed him.
Atletico Falcao was just different gravy.
Different gravy. And that speaks to the kind of the culture. And because now a lot of players have come to United, failed, and then left United and done a lot better. And then it just talks to the problems United in terms of the environment and their player development, because we've spoken about kind of one half of it in terms of the quality of players that we actually sign in. But how about United sign players? Because other than Bruno Fernandes, I think United probably could sign a few players in the future where they do really well for the first 6 months and they actually make an impact and they're there for a year. But Martinez, or maybe even like a Casemiro. But what about United's ability to bring players in that have an impact, but then even keep their almost trajectory going upwards? In a way, because I feel like there's been
signing a 21-year-old Roy Keane.
A 21-year-old Roy Keane, but now the concern is anytime we sign a young player, for example like Højlund, it's like, how long is it going to be before United ruin him? And
when we signed Roy Keane, we still had Brian Robson and we still had Paul Ince. And I think we may have still had Mike Phelan kicking about around that time as well. So all of those players were playing centre mid. So there was no pressure on Roy Keane to come in and be Roy Keane. And those of a certain vintage will remember that Roy Keane actually played a couple of games as a right back. Yeah. To bed him into the fucking team, to get used to playing at Old Trafford, to get used to the expectations. And then they played him alongside of Brian Robson and alongside of Paul Ince. And I bet if you looked at how many games he actually started in his first season for United as a centre mid, it probably wasn't every week. He was allowed to be embedded into the team. You get some players that they'll start quite a lot of games, but then, then even like, I think Wayne Rooney got a bit of a run up into the team. Cristiano started a lot of games, but, there was development going on and he was in a world-class team at the time.
So what you're saying is true, because it speaks to the fact that every time that United make a Galactico or marquee signing, because of United's expectations as a club, but like where we are in terms of everything going wrong, there's a pressure for that signing to make a huge difference and a huge impact almost straight away.
Everyone's got this Messiah complex.
Everyone's got Messiah.
We need a Messiah.
Like, do you know what I mean? So if they fall below that, the narrative gets flipped on them really quickly, and then it garners this bad culture almost, and this bad environment, this bad vibe that players can't seem to deal with, because surely not every single player that United sign, not every player at United is bad as they seem to be at the club. Surely that can't be the case. Maybe Martial showed a bit different because he went to Sevilla and he was awful there as well.
Shit the bed there.
So,
Donny van de Beek.
Donny van de Beek for the most when he went to Everton. But I don't know. It's like Gary Neville mentioned it. It feels like a graveyard. There's almost too much that needs changing, because my concern is we get like a player like De Jong and these Tadibos and these cleverer, smarter signings, and they come in and they do well, and it's like, how long for? Can United develop him? Can United make him better? Because even the young players that we get through, like,
but the infrastructure's not there for this. Like, how many times have we said, like, Ryan Hopper should not have a job as a private coach? Ryan Hopper should just be a guy that works at United from 12 till 5 every day, and he should be in there. You know, like, there should be, at no point does Bruno Fernandes ever think, I better hire a coach. That should not, like, Bruno Fernandes should go to...
Is it Fred as well?
Yeah, and Delo. So he should, and a lot more academy players whose agencies hire. So agencies will hire the likes of Hopper, and they will book like block sessions, and he might do 3 or 4 hours back to back where he has groups of 3 and 4 from this academy, this agency. So when you have like, realistically, what should happen is Bruno should go, I want to do a bit more like, you know, some quick play, some fast feet, a little bit of one-to-one sessions. He should go and speak to Steve McLaren and say, can I get that? And Steve McLaren should go, yeah, here's Ryan's number. Ryan's a coach that we have at the club that does that. After training finishes, Monday to Friday, he's here. Just organise a time slot that fits you. And he should go, all right, thank you. That should be it. That should be how simple that is. And what's it going to cost? In the grand scheme of how much you pay these players, nothing.
Yep.
Not even 1% of what some of these players are going to cost you on a week for the year, right? So why is there not... You shouldn't be able to move for motherfuckers carrying coaches and ball bags all over the fucking pitches at Carrington.
NFL style.
Yeah. There should just be... Everyone, you should go, I would like to work on left-footed in-swinging corners. And we go, well, go and speak to the left-footed in-swinging corners coach. Like... That is
proper NFL style. They have a coach for everything.
Yeah. But they should have that. Like, that should be a thing. Is you go, like, we've got Erik Ramsey as a set-piece coach. Has he ever put a session on? Because I'll tell you what, fucker, the evidence at Old Trafford on a Saturday does not look like...
He probably takes his sessions... Like on a Friday when he says the set pieces, and he probably takes that.
But why is he not available? He might be, right? And I might just be guessing it. But like, surely there's got to be this whole buffet of everything that you want as a player should be at Carrington. And all you got to do is ask the right person. Or even, there's a notice board which says, team training is then, and then we've got all of these fucking coaches in for individual training later. That should be the fucking move, man. And that never seems to be the case. We spoke earlier about there's some talk of Dan Ashworth coming in, and I know all of you are going, what happened to that video? I'll tell you what happened to that video. I was ill as fuck Monday, Tuesday, and I have a little box that plugs in my mic and my camera and all that at home, and it just shit the bed. And it just wouldn't recognise the camera.
Did it shit the bed, or did you?
No, that shit the bed.
I think that was the cold word. But you know what I was also going to ask you about?
So on Dan Ashworth, I will do that video. Yeah. That video's coming. But when you look at, he's probably had a hand, not the complete say, but he's had a hand in some of the improvements that we've seen at Newcastle. Well, Newcastle are getting a better tune out of largely the same squad. They have had additions to it, but it's very much the same squad.
Yeah, it is.
They brought in a couple of decent characters, despite Joel's voodoo that he's managed to put on Trippier. Like, he seems like a real good character to have around the gaff. If United can just get more out of the ones that you've got, if they're able to transform what is there into performing at a higher standard, because Newcastle were flirting with relegation.
Like, the turnaround's been crazy because some of the players that they're getting a tune out of, because you got to attribute a lot of that to Eddie Howe as well, and some of the job he's been there. You think, can United surely do something along them lines? And it's the fact that we've got to look to other clubs for the way that they've done things. Obviously, you've seen an article mention how almost United, like Arsenal, should be United's blueprint for how they've kind of rebuilded under Arteta, where he's come in and he's got rid of the big stars there that were like Lacazette and Aubameyang, things that he considers bad apple, because Aubameyang was notoriously someone that would get you 30 goals a season, but he was quite a bad professional. So the way he trained, late a lot. A lot of the things we hear about certain players at United, and he didn't kind of accept that. And what they've gone through is they went through a bit of a cleanse of the older players that were.
It's a young squad, isn't it?
That quite senior, because Arsenal were top of the league, like flirting with top of the league this season and last. They have, was it second or third, the youngest team in the league as well, and I think that's the blueprint that United should be looking at, because you get players that age that are usually a little bit hungrier, a little bit livelier. You can almost kind of nurture them into better characters. And obviously, they don't have the issue of giving players. For example, if Saka was at United, would he be on 400 grand a week by now? Probably.
Oh, if he was at United, yeah.
If he was at United, Saka would be on 400 grand a week if he was at United now.
If not, it's his next deal for sure.
If he's not, whereas other clubs don't work that way. They keep the players hungry. There's a bit more of like a success-orientated approach. I think where they give a lot of players a lot too early. And I thought, because United almost seems like still as a club the pinnacle where you can't really go above it if you leave when you leave. I think a lot of players kind of down tools there, thinking I've already made it. This is probably the biggest club I'm going to play it for. I'm making all this money, and they just lose the fire completely. But I think before we do any of this recruitment and stuff, which obviously needs help, I think there needs to be a massive kind of cleanse.
Well, there's got to be a plan
and clear out.
The first thing has got to be a plan. What do we want to look like? What is the character? What are the traits? What are the tenets of the philosophy of what we want to exist as a football team? Do you want to replicate what Matt Busby and Sir Alex Ferguson did, which was spending on a couple of very key players? Matt Busby spent big money on the likes, and when I'm talking big money, I'm talking it was like 30 to 40% of our turnover, which is like a £300 million signing now, on the likes of Dennis Law. Motherfucker won a Ballon d'Or here. Yeah. It was good value, right? Same with, I'm not sure, was it Sexton or Ron Atkinson who brought in Brian Robson? That was about 30-40% of United's turnover at the time that we signed him. And this blows my mind, man. Matt Busby actually resigned because he said no player should ever cost £1 million, and we paid $1 million for Robbo. So Matt Busby resigned as president of the club on the back of us signing Robbo. And then I believe the next one that did that was either Rio or Veron. Was a similar percentage of our turnover at the time when it came to the signing. But all of those teams, like that team in the 80s, yes, it never won a league, but it was supplemented by smart, cheap buys or homegrown talent. Your Norman Whitesides, your Mark Hugheses, even to an extent your Clayton Blackmores. Obviously the team in the 60s was supplemented heavily by the Busby Babes. And then latterly, although you're still a Busby Babe, but no, the second wave of Busby Babes coming in, your George Bests and people like that, your John Astons and your Brian Kidds. Manchester United, if you look at who we are as a football club, and I think this is, when we've been successful, this is what we've done, and I think we should always revert back to that sort of thing, is world-class talent from wherever it comes in the world and the very, very best of the homegrown players. That's who we are as a football club. And that says nothing to nationality. That says nothing to, where do they have to be born in Manchester? Well, Bobby Charlton wasn't. He's from Ashford. George Best from Belfast. Dennis Laws from Scotland. None of them are Mancunian. Yes, we've always had a little bit of a core of that, but if you want to get back to doing that, that means maybe identifying a new Jude Bellingham at 15 or even at 16 and bringing him into the fold, almost Roy Keane style. I've got some super chats, thanks for those. I'll read those out in a sec. But I think, if you say these are the tenets of the club, this is what we got to adhere to, these are the things that we want to stand for, and then this is the style of play, then you can say, right, well, does Anthony Martial fit this in terms of we want to press from the front? Well, he ain't going to do it. He's never done it. And we can't rely on him for injuries. Off he fucking goes.
because you've not commented on it, yeah, but because I know you was ill earlier in the week, otherwise Steve definitely would have. Obviously, there's a Mourinho interview where he said a lot about United, and he did kind of give the "I told you so," without saying it completely, but he gave the "I told you so" about certain players that are still at United not doing well, because he was quite vocal about not really being a massive fan of Martial, Pogba. I don't think he was even that big on Rashford at the time. Do you know what I mean? And
when Mourinho was here, there was someone that worked for Mourinho, and I got in touch with me and gave me some inside info directly from Mourinho. Now, some of these players, Martial being one of them for sure, possibly Pogba, and Luke Shaw was another one that he said some stuff about. He might give me the truth on, but considering Chris Smalling plays for him at the moment, I don't reckon he'll want to back that one up.
yeah,
But either way, maybe I'll get the chance to ask him. Maybe we'll see.
Hopefully you do get to ask him. But
anyway, so let's have a look at those super chats, because there was a couple. So Joshua Brewster in a super chat, thank you brother, says, do I think Ten Hag's better managing expectations around the January window like he is, or should he be putting pressure on the board for signings? It's weird, isn't it? Because there is a PR game at play, whether you like that or not. He can't come out and be honest ever in a press conference. Because if he goes out and goes, this team needs to get fucked, well, the morale in the squad goes down. The players that you've mentioned have now got the ump with you, which, there's already a couple of those anyway.
yeah,
And then you get a Twix and a bag of Quavers for the ones that you're trying to sell. So it does you no good. Like, that's why managers lie in press conferences all the time. Are you looking for new signings? No, I'm totally happy with the squad. Because then when you go and sit down with the player that you're trying to sign, you go, or the club that you're negotiating with about signing their new centre-half, you go, well, you're the manager. The manager's all right. We just, if there's a deal to be done here, we'll think about it, but we're not desperate. The converse is also true. If he goes, Jesus Christ, lads, do I need signings? I need 5 minimum. Like, then you go and speak to the first club you go into, and they go, you need 5 signings? Yeah, well, my price just gone up. Do you know what I mean? Like, you get ad off. You can't be truthful in those press conferences. So I hope he's putting pressure on privately and kicking off like fuck. I hope he's flipped a table. I hope he's thrown a fucking vase at someone. And I hope he gets what he wants. But you can't be truthful in public, unfortunately. And maybe it is better he manages the expectation, because this fan base is so fucking ready to just scream at any time. Peter Kelly with a super chat says, why do we never hit in swinging corners when they're statistically the most successful corners? And there was another penalty shootout the other day, wasn't there, where those stats, obviously not corner stats, came in, but you take the first penalty, you win 60% of penalty shootouts.
Yeah, I know. I remember you always saying that. I'm a heavy on it in swinging corners, because I think how many corners did Liverpool have against us? Get loads. 12. And they were shit on him, even though we're bad at defensive set pieces. But he did so many outswinging ones that when they did get ahead on it, like Van Dijk twice, you've got to put all the power on it. You've got to put all the direction on it. Where I think in swinging corners, you just need to get a bit of a contact on it, and you can almost like use the momentum of it. It's definitely a much more threatening corner. I've never got why teams do outswinging corners. I think if I was managing, which I'm not every single corner being swing. Left wing on like a left footer on that side and a right footer on the other side.
Well, what are ours? There's only our B ball, which is
to be fair.
C ball, which.
But I think most teams surely do in swinging. Yeah.
What I think is the most dangerous one. We don't utilise this enough, but it is something I'd like us to work on if we get the opportunity to. Is it's not necessarily